Well, where does that leave us with regard to social action and practice? Answer, very far away. There still remains an enormous gap between what we have to grasp in order to ground moral action, to choose a course of action on moral grounds, enormous gap between that and what we in fact understand about human nature and the human needs that derive from it and the human rights that derive from it. Big gap. So we're left where we were with the need to make an intuitive leap and to posit some judgment about what real intrinsic human nature is. In a sense, you're staking your faith in what you think or hope human beings may be. Now, if you take as your faith that of, say, the classical liberal doctrine, you will conclude that there is no justification, there's no moral justification for the commissar or the central committee or the cultural or corporate manager or any of the others who control and coerce us on specious grounds. Actual classical liberal view, which is very different from what is known, with its deep innatist roots, is very subversive and radical because it challenges the existence of any form of authority and requires that it be justified, which can rarely be done. It's not too surprising, I think, that the actual ideas of the Enlightenment have been subjected to such broad-ranging attack. They are radical and subversive, and because of the faith that they express in human capacity and human rights and human needs and their richness. And that's a deeply upsetting view from the point of view of any institutional structure which is concerned with control and manipulation, or any of the people who operate within those institutional structures. Well, if one takes this position, the next thing to do is to make the intuitive leap and turn to the concrete, substantive questions of acting as a moral agent, choosing a course of action. And here what you do is seek out structures of authority and domination. Often we don't see them, so you have to try to find them, even though they're there. Once you notice them, you see them. You have to seek them out, ask the question as to whether they in fact are legitimate for some contingent reason, say self-defense or whatever argument is put forth. And if they fail that test, as they almost invariably do, to move forward to dismantle them, which means solidarity and organization and so on. That's a hard task. But there are achievements. There are real achievements. It's not, for most of human history, for example, literal human slavery was considered legitimate, in fact considered quite praiseworthy. It was for the benefit of these depraved creatures who shouldn't be left on their own. There's only a little tiny period of human history where this is considered a total obscenity. And the fact that it is considered a total obscenity is an achievement. In the 18th century, it was pointed out that wage slavery is fundamentally not very different from slavery. If people are compelled to rent themselves in order to survive, it's not very different than selling yourself in order to survive. That's an insight that has yet to be recovered, but it's a valid one. And in fact, notice that it grows from these same conceptions of human nature. But at least literal human slavery would no longer be justified by, I suppose, almost anyone. That's an achievement. It's a moral achievement. It's a moral advance. Just in our own lifetimes, the questions of the legitimacy of sexist oppression have come to the fore. It's not that they were never noticed before, but there's been a sustained and committed effort to bring them to consciousness. And it's not long ago, anybody my age will know that it's not long ago, they just didn't see it. You notice it, it's just part of the background. Now at least you see it, the problems are there, but it's a moral advance that the problems are recognized to be there. There's some effort to come to terms with them.